The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
One thing that people need to understand is we need to stop eating ultra-processed food. We need to stop eating.
So what is ultra-processed? Can you just give examples?
Absolutely. So ultra-processed food is basically all the things that you're seeing at the grocery store that have this laundry list of ingredients that usually are based on 3 ingredients: ultra-processed flour, ultra-processed added sugars, and ultra-processed seed oil. So this is going to be like white flour, cane sugar, and things like cottonseed oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil. So these crappy foods that did not exist 150 years ago, ultra-fine white flour, added sugars, and seed oils.
That's like all brand name
It's
foods.
like everything. I mean, we have a list in the book of what you should not eat, and it's basically everything at the grocery store. I mean, we should all be shopping at there are 9,000 farmers markets in the United States right now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Oh, it's Wednesday. Holy guacamole. There you go. The long weekend after effects setting in. Anyway, hope everybody had a really nice Labor Day weekend. Hope you got to take a little time to relax a little bit. Man, I found Monday was such a chill day. It was like dead quiet everywhere, which was nice, actually. I got a lot of good exercise in, tons of steps. I think on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I averaged like 20,000 steps each day. So that ain't bad. That's like 10 miles a day. So like 30 miles over the course of the weekend. So that leads me to kind of talking about what we're going to talk about today. So I really want to get into this health stuff. I know we've talked a lot of politics and a lot of geopolitics, and as we're getting closer to the election, I am going to obviously keep bringing that stuff up and keep talking about certain things. But I do realize something that gives me tremendous energy is talking this health stuff, and it's talking about really the things not a ton of people are talking about, and that is a shame. And so the gal you heard at the beginning segment there is Dr. Casey Means. So I don't know if you guys pay attention to kind of, I guess, what's going on in the podcast space, but Tucker Carlson, and I know I've talked about Tucker before, and honestly, I know a lot of you might have mixed emotions on Tucker Carlson when it comes to his politics, and that's totally fine. But I will say this, and I truly mean this, from the bottom of my soul. The guy talks about things other people really don't take on. And if you don't like his politics and you're not a fan of his conservative side and you're not a fan of, let's say, him supporting Trump and all that, that's totally cool. Don't listen to any of those episodes. But I will say when it comes to other, topics, for example, if you don't like his conservative, let's say, American politics, when he brings on guys like Professor Jeffrey Sachs or John Mearsheimer or other geopolitical guys that I think are super legit, and they're talking about Russia, Ukraine, for example, or Taiwan, those I think are worth listening to because he's bringing on the people that really have a nuanced perspective to geopolitics. But that's not what I want to talk about today. Today, when it comes to this health stuff, this brother and sister duo, Casey and Callie Means, they went on his show, probably maybe 10 days ago, or maybe even 2 weeks by now. And, this brother and sister duo are very interesting. And they are really, talking about a lot of health-related things that, quite frankly, I totally jive with and I totally agree with. And again, this is from my own 10 plus years of, for lack of a better way of putting it, giving a real shit about my health. I mean, I can honestly say, my health journey started, with our dad in 2006. But then for myself personally, I really dove in probably 2010, 2011. And, those that that are friends with me know that I was, big fresh vegetable juicer for a while. And, I still do that every once in a while, but honestly, I can't say I do it every day like I used to. Gosh, I used to literally juice and drink 32 ounces of fresh vegetable juice every day for like 2 years. And I will tell you, I have never felt better than I felt those 2 years. I was looking the best I've looked, in the best shape, I think. And just overall, my body just felt amazing. My skin was the best it's ever been. So there's definitely something to be said about, what you put into your body. And it matters, and we really have to take it seriously now. And so Casey and Callie Means, this brother and sister duo, they went on Tucker Carlson, and it's a great episode, but it's like 2.5 hours long. And so I know a lot of you might not want to dedicate that time. So what I'm going to do today is really just play a few of the clips as a starter to really try and, again, make you think about your health a little bit more than you already are, and maybe, give some nuggies of information that they gave on the episode. If you want to listen to the full episode, just go on to Tucker Carlson's podcast, and it's probably 7 or 8 episodes deep now, but you can find it. But again, what I like about it is they talk a lot about the things that no one else is really talking about. Ironically, other than RFK Jr., he's also talking about this, but no one else really is talking about this, or at least no one with as big of a platform as these guys have. So
people can make the effort and reprioritize their values to focus on getting nutritious food. We need to be eating organic, unprocessed foods for the vast majority of our calories. And we need to get back to having a sense of pride and responsibility in our households to cook food.
All right, I am going to poke a couple holes in some of the things they talk about as well. I'm not a huge organic food guy. I'm really not. And it's because I really don't trust the what's the word I'm looking for? I really don't trust the certification process or the process that it takes to basically make those claims. I really don't. And I say that because honestly, when I went through the certification process for my Boost liquid vitamins, I learned all about that. And I learned kind of, quite frankly, I hate to say it, but ways to shortchange that process and ways to get around things and ways to be able to, quite frankly, market something as organic when there's no real, tremendous third-party testing required. So I don't necessarily think everything you put into your body has to say, quote unquote, organic. I do agree with the ultra processed stuff, and we're not going to totally be able to come to conclusions this episode, but I am going to really try and define the hell out of that so we totally understand moving forward, let's say after a few more weeks, what things are ultra processed. And a lot of that is, starting to look at the labels, the supplement facts and the nutrition facts of the foods that you're buying and turning them around to see how much sugar is in there, see how much total carbohydrates are in there, see how much fiber is in there. And again, unfortunately, these labels are confusing. A lot of people don't realize that the numbers they're looking at are per serving. And then they don't realize how big that serving size is. They think that maybe what they're looking at is per the entire package. And it's not. It's per the serving and the serving size that is equated. And then depending on how they present that, you might not even know how big that is. You might not even know how much that is that you're consuming. And so you might think you're taking in 150 calories when really you're taking in 450 calories. Now, I think she absolutely nailed it when she talked about cooking at home, though. That is huge. I seriously, I don't even... This is going to sound crazy, but I really don't even enjoy eating out at restaurants anymore because I feel like the food has changed so much. I really do. not only has it gotten crazy expensive, I don't really care about that part, but I just don't feel good when I eat out at most restaurants. And I'll tell you, it's going to be gross, but I've talked about this before. You can always tell the quality of the food you have eaten by your number 2 the next day. So when you go to the bathroom number 2 that next day, depending on what it smells like, depending on what it looks like, depending on just everything with that deposit that you make, if it's gross, that tells you something. And again, smell is one of the best ways to think about that. We did that whole episode about number 1 and number 2 where I utilized ChatGPT. But man, that stuff really matters. And again, you could go to the best restaurant, the most expensive restaurant, or let's define best as most expensive in that case. And if you go to the bathroom that next day and it stinks, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's the quality of the ingredients and really the hormones and the preservatives and everything else that has gone into that food. Your body's truly the ultimate test of that. So that's how it processes that, and that's the things that come out. Whereas, let's say you ate dinner at home and you had, I don't know, chicken breast that you bought from Ralph's or Costco or whatever grocery store you bought. And then that next day, you don't have that, or the same steak that you bought and maybe prepared it at home, differently. If you don't have that same, I guess, disgusting smell and all that the next day when you go to the bathroom, that shows you that food was, either better for you or again, a lot of it could be in terms of the preparation.
One of the unintentional downsides of the feminist movement is that we somehow made people feel that food preparation was like a less than activity. I bought into this for my entire early professional life, that it was somehow beneath me. I was like a slave in the kitchen if I was cooking for husband or family. There is no more important thing we can be doing than feeding our children and our families healthy food. Less than 30% of American families are eating together more than once per week. We need to be sitting down at the dinner table eating real, unprocessed food cooked with love at home.
I really like that point as well. The concept of the family meal. I mean, again, I know that's difficult these days, and that goes into a lot of just our obsession with technology and devices and all that stuff. So, it really is I don't know if it's trickle down or trickle up or trickle sideways or whatever, but man, it all kind of runs together. Think about that. Think about kind of what she talked about there in terms of, cooking, eating together as a family, all that stuff. I mean, that's really all been under assault. And I would say it's basically the last decade. And it really does have to do with the rise of social media. It has to do with the rise of our addiction to these devices. And again, I'm guilty of all of this. I mean, I can talk about it because I recognize it, even with myself, that need of like, gosh, why do you need to have your phone in your hand all the time when you're moving? I mean, seriously, think about it. When you are moving around, oh my God, this is funny. I kind of just thought about this. When you are moving around, your phone is in your hand most of the time. When you're out and about, your phone is with you, obviously. I take my phone on my runs with me, so it's with me there. And when I'm at the gym, it's with me. When I'm walking around, I went to the mall this weekend, my phone's with me. Obviously, your phone is literally in your hand practically all the time. That's insane. Wow. That's pretty crazy. I have to talk about that some more, but
there is no way to drug ourselves out of the fact that, we eat 40 to 70 metric tons of food in our lifetime. It's a lot of food, right? This is the molecular information that is building our bodies, building our brains, making our hormones, feeding our microbiome. The food is what we are built of. And right now, 70% of it is trash made from a factory to addict us. Of course we're sick.
All right. So like key takeaways from that, just, again, think about it. Think about what you're eating and what you're putting into your body and quite frankly, the addictiveness of it. And a lot of this comes down to sugar. I'm going to really get experts on here and then also talk more and more about sugar. But I really want to try and, educate us more on our food supply, our food system and all that.
So that is number one. So to answer your question very specifically, I don't follow dietary dogma. I eat organic, unprocessed foods that I buy at the farmer's market, and I cook every single meal for my partner and I. And when I have children in the next few years, I am so deeply excited to cook every meal for them from scratch because there's nothing more important.
All right. So just to comment on that, I mean, again, obviously, I do think it's great to cook at home as much as possible. But, part of going out and part of doing all that, especially I know for those of you with kids is, the social aspect of it and the change of scenery and the change of pace and the change of everything. And yeah, just, I think it's a little, I guess, naive to think we can never eat out and cook every single meal at home. I don't think that's even feasible. I think really where I net out on it is, try to do the bulk of it, the bulk of it. Like I really don't order in that much anymore. I just don't because I'd rather cook for myself. Now, granted, I am one person, so you guys have families and some of you have many more mouths to feed at that table. But again, my point is, you're not going to be perfect about this. So really, fundamentally, I think it's just about trying to almost like an 80% rule, even with cooking at home. I mean, I think if you can cook at home and cook your own stuff versus ordering in or takeout or whatever, 80% of the time, I think that's phenomenal. I think that's phenomenal.
And so, for people who can't necessarily get to a farmer's market, it's go to Costco.
Man, you are radical. I love it.
How is this radical?
It's not.
Isn't it wild that this is radical?
It's such a total rejection at every level of the values of our society, which I
had to wake up. I was so deep in this in my 20s. I cannot even tell you. Like I was deep in the opposite of this. And so, I believe that people...
The crazy thing is I feel like we went through this a little bit literally a decade ago, like when I kind of got into my big health kick. And if you remember at that time, there were like documentaries, Food Matters came out. There was one called Food Inc. There was one called Tapped that basically totally showed you how bottled water is like such a scam, which by the way, I totally think it is a scam. But, a decade ago I think right around 2009, 2010, 2011, it was almost like we went through this again and then it just kind of went away. The Food Matters, Food Inc., all those documentaries came out and they gained a lot of notoriety, but then they just kind of went away. And why did they go away? I mean, first of all, it's hard. It's hard eating healthy and it's hard making this stuff part of your lifestyle. Well, it's not really, but it definitely cuts into this convenience mentality that I think exists in the United States. I don't think in Europe and other countries, Asia, I don't think the relationship with food is the same as we have here. We have a very lazy relationship with food, meaning we want whatever we want as fast as we want and give it to us versus having to take the time to cook it. I mean, that's apparent more than anything with, even though I'm a huge fan of Costco, I will say, does it make sense to buy food and put it in your freezer so you have enough food for, 45 days in your freezer? Does that make more sense? Or does it make more sense the way they do it in, let's say, small European cities like in Italy or Spain, where people are literally going to the market or the bodega quite frankly, every day or every other day, and the food they have in their house is enough for preparation for a few days. Think about that. Seriously, think about that lifestyle. And now, obviously, you would think, oh my God, what a pain in the ass. I can't do that. But but you can. I mean, people can because other cultures live like that. But again, in the United States, gosh, man, it really is a trickle down or trickle up or trickle sideways problem because our entire lives and lifestyles are geared around that not being ideal. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy.
No one wants to be sick,
No.
but the answer is on our fork. So I would say, to get very specific now, organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, meat, poultry, eggs, game meats, grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised.
What about cheese?
Cheese, dairy, but grass-fed, high-quality, organic. The molecular information in these factory cow, these factory farmed cows that are jammed with antibiotics and hormones, that milk is not what you want to be drinking.
Now, again, I mean, I don't totally disagree with her on all of that stuff, but here's the other thing. You also have to talk about how expensive things are. And you also have to talk about how it's much easier for many families to go to a fast food restaurant and pay, $10, $12, $15 versus what it takes to make, a much more quality meal at home. Like I said, the organic, grass-fed, all of that stuff, again, I'm not going to disagree with it, but I think it's a little naive to think that everybody can do that. And again, like trickle up, trickle down, trickle sideways. This is like a bigger societal problem that, getting access to these foods in many communities, and especially with the economy the way it's been the past 4 years, it's just not even possible. You know what I mean? It's just not even possible. So the question becomes, how do we make better food decisions on limited budgets? How do we make better food decisions when, you can't afford to go to farmers markets? Farmers markets are crazy expensive. I don't know in other parts of the United States, but I'll tell you the ones I go to and the ones I visit in California, I mean, it's ridiculously expensive. It really is. And then I'm like, oh, I feel bad. This is how these people make a living. So you want to support that. But at the same time, I mean, it is a dramatic difference versus, the grocery stores. And even when it comes to the farmers markets, it's like, I hate to say this, but, how do I know where what they're selling me really came from? Obviously they have their signs up and they have their signs for their farms and things like that. But, again, I'm sorry, there is a little bit of skepticism that I have with all of that stuff. There is. God, I hate to say that, but it's true.
The problem isn't the milk, it's the quality.
It's the quality of the milk. Organic food has more nutrients than non-organic food. We need to be... So,
is it hard to find, like I love cheese, for example, cheese. So if I
it's at Costco now, grass-fed cheese.
Okay.
I mean, how wild is it that it's illegal to buy raw milk in this country?
Or if it's imported from Europe.
I'm going to do a deeper dive on milk because honestly, I'm not a fan of milk as an adult. Like, I'm really not. I'm talking cow's milk. It's like, what animal, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but what animal drinks another animal's milk besides human beings and cows? Like, no animal drinks another animal's milk. And even when it comes to cows, the calf drinks the milk and the mother's milk in like the first 6 to 9 months to get tremendous growth right away. And then they don't even drink it anymore. So I think milk is a little bit of a scam as an adult.
Imported
Honestly.
from Europe, yeah, because they're going to have much better
They have Parmesan at Costco that's imported from Europe. It's fine that the lactose and all these allergies that have all just started in the past 30 years are because of the toxicity of the food, not the food itself.
2 great points there. I will say it does seem the quality of the food that gets imported from Europe is much better. It might be the packaging. The packaging is always nicer. And that's funny that he referenced Costco because I noticed that as well. But then secondly, again, it's not about necessarily the food itself, but it's the toxicity of that specific food. I think that really is such a good point. And again, like I said, I mean, the best way, this is actually pretty cool. The best meter or regulator you have of this is what your number 2 is like the next day. I mean, seriously, if there's any takeaway from this episode, start to really pay attention to your number 2 the next day. And then if you have a unpleasant experience sitting on the throne, think about what you ate yesterday, because that is what you ate yesterday. That's what you ate yesterday coming out for a curtain call. And so that to me is a huge indicator. There's a good word. That's a huge indicator of what I ate. And I do take that into consideration. Like, for example, there was something I got at Costco a few weeks ago, and it did not provide a pleasant curtain call. And so I'm never going to buy that again. It was this pork related thing. I do like pork. It's the other white meat. It's pretty healthy. I'm going to talk about that in another episode. But again, I didn't like the curtain call. And so I'm never going to buy that again. All right, I'm going to end this one here today because, again, there's a lot more I'm going to talk about. But think of this as part 1 of, I guess, ultra-processed foods. And I'll have to figure out a way to brand this little series. But I am going to play some more clips from the interview from Casey and Callie Means. There's some good clips from an RFK Jr. episode. I think he went on Tucker Carlson last week again. And again, I mean, let's judge the takes. I'll try to pull, what I think is valuable from each episode. But we're going to dive into this health stuff. I will say one thing, just like I said, poking some holes into what these guys say. I do think they are a little bit unrealistic, though, if they think that the majority, especially in America right now, families can afford organic, they can afford grass-fed, they can afford all this. And again, this shows you this is a bigger problem. We are so sick as a country because of all of this collectively. I mean, all of these things collectively, the state of the economy, the state of, the way our lives are geared, the way things are set up, the way, urban planning, all this stuff. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's a big problem. It's definitely a big problem. But anyway, let's try and take it one step at a time. I think my first initial step is really to try and just dumb down and make it easy about how to, decipher nutrition labels, and then really just start to put plans in place on just what you're putting in your body. Because again, that's it. It comes down to that. It comes down to what you're putting into your body, and then it comes down to how you're exercising and burning that off. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Call a spade, and we will catch up with you soon.
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.